everybody, welcome to emilykatemadethis. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sometimes sewing, it's been a while but sometimes sewing YouTube channel. Welcome. This episode has two finished objects. It's a miracle and you can probably guess what they are. It's also a little bit like Fix It February, except yes, it is February. It is still February. It is the 29th of February. So happy leap year, everybody. I find it kind of strange that I've only ever experienced this day like 8 or 9 times in my whole life. Isn't that a bizarre thought? Anyway, before I scare everybody off by being super weird, let us get into the knits. So, which one shall I do first? I don't want to scare you all off. I'll do the bows. I have finished my Bows Are News jumper and I will put that on for you now. My bread is about to be ready, so I would just go and put my bread in the oven. Did I just spend that entire hour of video with something on my teeth? Yes, I did. That was embarrassing, but do I want to re-record an hour of footage? No. So, sorry not sorry. You will have to put up with that the entire way through. Ta-da! My bows and news are done. How can I fit myself in this frame? I will shut this. I will push you further back. Ta-da! So, did I prepare for this? Absolutely not. Where does this jumper come from? I will come back to you on that one. For now, this is a 1940s jumper that I knitted with Drops Nord. I did have some drama llama with this yarn. If you were watching my last video, last week, I was telling you that I had this yarn in stash. And then I ran out of it midway through a project, so I bought more yarn. Then I thought I'd have enough to make this jumper. Goodness knows why I thought that, considering I needed to buy 2 more balls, but alas. Purchased said new balls, and all the blue just kept coming off onto my needles and my hands, and it was horrible. It was horrible, horrible. My needles were stained. They've kind of lost their condition now because they were wooden needles. It was very weird because I've knitted with this yarn several times. I've never had an issue, and then I got this new yarn and it completely annihilated my needles. And yes, I did use those needles for the rest of the body and the other projects and there were no problems. So it was definitely a problem with this particular batch. And I washed them. I took them from their little ball, it's not really a ball, but I've forgotten what it's called, and put it onto my Swift, turned it into a skein, threw it in the bath, then dried it, reballed it, knitted with it. Weirdly, not much blue, like very, very little blue came out in the bath, but it did work because my hands were no longer blue. Admittedly, I did use metal needles after that escapade because I was not going to destroy those needles anymore. It was very sticky, so the needles were just sticky, so all the yarn just got completely stuck. I couldn't even move the stitches along the needles. I was using my nails to try and scrape off the oil or residue or whatever it was. And now I have to go to the door. Hang on. So yes, there was a lot of drama llama with that yarn. I did try to look on Drop's website, but there's just nowhere that you can message to say you have any issues. It just says leave a comment, but you can't message them on Facebook or Messenger or Instagram. You can't email them. There's just a phone number in Norway, and I'm not going to waste my money on calling Norway when it costs like 2 quid. But it was annoying, and what's more annoying is I don't like the fact that I actually really like the yarn. I like how it knits up, I like how it feels, I like how it washes. So it annoys me that a company is producing yarn that's a bit, this batch, and yet I can't do anything about it. But hey ho, let us move on from that and just enjoy the fact that it is completed. I found this pattern on, I'm pretty sure it was a Facebook group, but there are several different patterns that look very similar to this. Essentially, you knit the body, usually flat, but I changed this into the round because, you know, that's what I do. And the blue ribbon sections are actually moss stitch, which I think is seed stitch in other countries. It's knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, and then you alternate purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one. And these little bows are just long strips. They were, I believe it was cast on 5 and knit for 4 inches. And then you sew them on like bows. Again, thank you to everybody that helped me with that because I did not understand how to do it, and it was very easy. So, ta-da! How many ta-das can I do for one jumper? I am very excited that it is done. I did not expect it to be done on time. My mom is coming to visit me on Sunday, and I was hoping to get this ready for my birthday, and I was like, oh, it's probably not gonna happen because I have another jumper that needs finishing. And by some miracle, it happened. And I still don't quite know how. I don't really have that much, that's a lie. I have a lot of knitting time. I just don't knit for long periods of time because I have hyperextension and it hurts a lot if I knit for too long. So I don't. What else can I tell you? I didn't follow the pattern like to a T because my gauge was different. As I've said several bazillion times, I have vintage knitting patterns, but I use modern wool, and I don't have any fingering weight wool, which is generally what people use nowadays to knit up vintage patterns. But I have sport weight yarn mostly, and so that means I have to change all of the stitch counts for all my vintage knits. So although they would actually fit me if I could follow the pattern and use the right yarn, and I wouldn't have to do any calculations, I do have to do calculations because otherwise these jumpers would turn out like much bigger. So I didn't follow the instructions for basically I didn't. But the general gist is there. I also tried to make the sleeves similar to the ones in the pattern, but they have like mega sleeves and I don't want mega sleeves. I'm very small and I'm very petite, and having huge shoulders I would feel really just ridiculous, to be honest. Very 80s power woman, and that's not my vibe. So I went with small petite shoulders. They are squared. They're like a box sleeve, except this sleeve, I was going to say diagram, it's not a diagram. How do I rephrase this? If I look up a box sleeve, I always get a very specific shape. And that is not what this one is. But I found this one from the Chevron jumper pattern, and I just readjusted the numbers based off of my gauge to get that for the original one, and then I did that for the next one, and I did that for this one. So although I would call this a box head sleeve, it doesn't seem to be like the traditional box head sleeve. So I'm not sure what this is called, but you basically start with like the circumference that you have. I think I had 66 stitches. Then what did I do? I have it here somewhere. I can tell you, I had 66. This is for my other jumper. But I increased to get to 72 purely because although theoretically it should be enough, 66 should be enough space after binding off of the armpit, it never is. Even though on paper and with maths it's correct and I should have enough space, it's always too tight. So I've now decided just to add a little bit. So I essentially increase up just so that I can bind off and end up with a very similar amount of stitches to what I started with after binding off. And then, so I bound off 6, then went back round and bound off the other 6, and that was in the round, and now after I've bound off it's flat. So then it goes into flat knitting. Then I decreased on each side of the knit side, so 2 stitches up until I got, or down until I got to 50 stitches. Then I knit for a certain length and then decreased to 30. I feel like I've completely lost you. I've kind of lost myself, to be honest. It doesn't really make sense if you're not knitting it, and it's kind of probably irrelevant. Basically, I need to have this from the armpit cast, armhole bind off to my shoulder. It has to be that my physical body's length. So I have about 8.5 inches. I will put that on the screen what that is in centimeters. So from here to here, it's about 8.5 inches. So I have now learned the reason why some of my previous knits did not fit was because I just went with the standard size. I just either followed the pattern or went with standard human, which is like 6 or 5 in some vintage patterns cases, and 5 inches is just, that's not long enough for me. So I have to make sure that this section is going to be long enough so it fits into my armhole. That is what I did. So then I decreased, and this gets to 30 stitches, and then you decrease in. In the pattern it was 9 stitches, but because my gauge is different, it was 6 stitches and 6, and then you pinch them down together. It is likely I will just cut all of this from the video because I feel like I'm not making sense, but it's a really nice sleeve head. I really like it, and I could put shoulder pads in, but I'm still a little apprehensive about that. We'll see. Maybe I might be doing it to my next jumper, but I don't know. What else? I did also change, to be honest, I didn't actually read what the pattern said to do for the closure, but this is what I tend to do. I do 2 buttons. Sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 2, but what I discovered was I have been misjudging my shoulders. I know that I have narrow shoulders because I'm small, but I thought they were about 3 inches, like I thought that's how wide I would need this section, but actually, going by this jumper, I need it to be about 2.5 inches, and then you add an extra bit for the neckband, and then you've got the shoulder bit. That's actually more of an ideal size for me, so it fits nicely, because my other jumpers the shoulders just hang off even though I changed the pattern so that they would be narrower. Apparently I was just mismeasuring my own measurements, and now I have learned, because I accidentally did this, because I had 6.5 stitches per 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters, and I misjudged my numbers because I was working on 2 jumpers simultaneously. One had 6 stitches and this one had 6.5, and when I looked at my calculations I picked up the wrong sheet with all the numbers, so I actually did this for 6, the numbers for 6, but because my stitches are actually smaller, it turns out that it came out smaller, which could have been a disaster, but in this case it worked out really well because it fits a lot better than if I had actually done it the way I had initially planned. So I am very happy with how this has turned out, and I'm so happy that I used all of this blue yarn. I do have 21 grams of this blue left, so kind of annoying that I still have this yarn left, but it's better than having almost two full balls and not knowing what to do with it. And I do have another drops from, these were all from my very first years of knitting when a friend gave it to my mum. My mum's friend gave her some yarn and she didn't know what to do with it, so she gave it to me because I was just learning to knit in 2020. So I've just been like hoarding this yarn, not knowing what to do with it, because typically I would knit with more like Norwegian wools without nylon. They're just lovely, lovely, lovely wools, and I never really know what to do with ones with acrylic or I can never say this, polyamide, but it is, I'm gonna admit it is a very nice yarn. It's alpaca, wool and polyamide, and it is really nice. What else? I should also say I'm not judging anybody that does use acrylic or anything. I just personally like to use natural fibres. I find that plastics and acrylics just make me smell. So typically I don't use them. I also just don't like having contributing plastic to anywhere I don't need to. But alas, this was given to me and I thoroughly enjoyed using it and wearing it. What else? What else? I'm gonna have some tea. Oh, how on earth did I forget my make-along? How did I forget to mention my make-along? So, thank you to everybody that was so enthusiastic about my suggestion on my last video. I mentioned that I was thinking about dabbling in a make-along, and I called it the Vintage MAL 2024, and I decided to start it on Instagram, and I'm having a bit of an issue with it in that Instagram has now just decided it's only going to show top posts and there's no option for all posts. So I'm kind of annoyed about this because a couple of you added your posts and I was really excited to see them, and then like 2 days later when I would check the hashtag, they were gone. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe they just removed the hashtag from their post. It's fine. But then I noticed that they hadn't removed the hashtag and that Instagram had just decided, nah, don't want to show that one today. So it's kind of annoying because you can't see all posts. You just see the top ones or the top recent ones. And to be honest, there's like 6 posts. So I'm not sure why they couldn't handle having 7 posts or 8 posts. They had to like remove a couple. So it's kind of annoying. I did think about putting it on Ravelry, and I did start a thread. It's just I'm really rubbish with Ravelry. It's so unuser friendly. I never really understand what I'm doing, but I did start a thread just so that if anybody wants to put their pictures on there or links to their project pages, we can still all see it, because the idea was that it was a vintage make along where you could knit or sew or crochet and we can all see each other's makes, we can all cheer each other along, because I know a lot of people get quite overwhelmed by the idea of a vintage knitting project and they want some tips and tricks or just inspiration, or they just want to show their lovely colour choices, and I love seeing them. And I love hearing about, my phone is going crazy. I love hearing about what you're making, and I love now being able to see it. But Instagram isn't showing them all. It does seem to rotate between them, so if you post one, eventually it will show up. I'm thinking maybe if there are more posts, it might like handle it better, I'm not sure. But anyway, if you want to, feel free to add a hashtag VintageMAL2024. Maybe tag me in it as well, emilykatemadethis, and then I'll see it, and then I can share it and add it to my stories. I've got the saved highlight that I'm going to add them all to, because it's just such a nice way to see everybody's makes, and I've already found lovely people just via this, and I want to see more. So yes, please add to either Ravelry, and if you can see that I'm doing some like major mistake on the Ravelry thing, please let me know and tell me what it is I have to do to add different threads or whatever. It's not like a winning cal. It's not like at the end I'm going to give prizes, because as I said previously, I'm not in a financial position to do that, and sometimes it's just nice to have a nice community, a nice space just to share like your makes. My neighbour has now decided that it's a good idea to start hammering on the deck. So hopefully you can't hear that. I'll have to be faster. He was using like a saw thing, I don't even know what it's called, wood saw yesterday. He might start using that again. So yes, that's my make along. There is absolutely no flavour in this tea. That's a shame. What else do I have to say? I think that's it. Okay, I will briefly mention... No, I won't. I'm going to go on to the next jumper, and then I will briefly talk about the rest. Ta-da! Another ta-da! Finished object number 2. I will not go into intense detail because I already fear that many of you are like, oh god no, not more of the chevron. I have talked extensively about this, so if you want to know more, basically any video that has a picture of the chevron, I'm probably talking about it. Definitely talked about it last time on my last episode, so I will be relatively brief. This is my final finished chevron. This time last year I made this jumper. I will try and remember to put a link to the video, although I always feel so embarrassed by this video because I came across like so silly with the silly mistakes, and then people will message me later and tell me like that I did it all wrong, or that I shouldn't have done it in the round, or la 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 la. And it's in the past. This has gone through many iterations since then, so this is hopefully the final version. I feel like I've sunk. I'm going to bring you lower. Is that better? That's maybe better. I'm so aware that my neighbours are super loud with their hammer. Anywho, as you might be able to already tell, the shoulder situation. This is what I mean by I've been mismeasuring my shoulders, thinking that they're wider than they actually are. So that is actually where the bone of my shoulder is. So it's kind of in the right place at the top, but then I think maybe my seaming just went a bit off. Also, this is moss stitch, so it starts off in the right place, and then over time with movement and heat, it kind of relaxes like rib, and then the shoulders just get lower and lower, even though they were originally in the right place. So it's not the end of the world, and I'm pretty sure my bunny jumper, my Christmas, like festive bunny jumper that I made... Oh, I need to put my phone on silent. Again, I don't know why I do this to myself. So, yeah, it's like not the end of the world, but it's kind of annoying, especially because I have this other jumper that fits like so well. I can rip out all the seaming and just shuffle it up a little bit. It is like a possibility. But do I want to do that? Not really. I will probably do it at some point, but it's just not on my agenda right now. I suppose it depends. If everybody post a comment under this video going, "Good Lord, Emily, what is going on with your shoulders? You need to deal with that now." Then I'll probably think, yeah, maybe I should. But I just keep convincing myself that it's fine. I do have some shoulder pads somewhere that I made for this jumper in its original state when I made it last year. Because last year the shoulders were down here and I was folding in the fabric and tucking it in and trying to get it higher and sewing it in and all kinds of mayhem. But the shoulder pads just made it so much, like, more. In fact, I'm wearing the shoulder pads in the video of the original final video about this. So you can see it there probably. But yeah, I know I should probably put them in the right place, but I just I don't want to. So the original jumper, as I have mentioned bazillion times, came out too big. So the sleeves from that I turned into this. So this is what I turned the chaos into, and I'm really happy with this and I really like the colour. And I changed lots of things. I made this stockinette, or whatever you call it, garter, stockinette. And actually, to be honest, I prefer this smooth version in comparison to this one. Probably more so to knit, but also it completely changed my gauge. So it probably would have sat better on my shoulders if I had just stuck with this, which this also fits a lot nicer. So yes, let's go with that. The moss stitch is complete gauge changer for me and made everything too big. I knit that on 3mm needles, so I should probably have gone down to 2.5mm needles for all of this to get it to sit as nicely as this one. Because I have the same issue with that festive bunny jumper, because I did that in moss stitch and that also came out too big. So basically I should probably not do moss stitch on the top if I want things to sit nicely. But the pattern, the original pattern, has this moss stitch. So I wanted to try and follow the pattern as close as possible, because originally I tried that and with the sleeves and everything at the shoulder head, and yeah, because it all went wrong, I then just changed things up with this, and I changed like the colours, and I didn't do the chevron on these sleeves. I did do chevron actually, but all in one colour, and I wanted to follow the original. So this one is all the same. Yeah, I think a shoulder pad would help it sit out more like the original. So overall, I am really happy because this baby's gone through so much. I cut out 4 panels, so 4 of these. That's how big it was. I mean, the fact that I could make a whole jumper out of sleeves shows you how big it was, because they were sleeves. And they fit my entire body with space. And so 4 of these panels I cut out and seamed. I will be getting some needle felting needles, because I think that would help not have such chunky seams when I'm steeking things. I have 1 needle and I need to get some kind of device that you can stick like 5 or 6 needles, so I can stab it all along the whole steeking section and not have 1 individual needle that just takes forever. So that is on my list, to find one of them. I don't know what else to say about it really, other than I'm very excited that it is done. It weighs just 200 grams and the original was 277 grams. So I have 77 grams less of weight of yarn in this jumper. Again, I'm not sure. I think on the original pattern the closure is done at the back. Yes, it is. The fastening is done at the back, but I hate this with a passion because I can't reach down there to do up these individual buttons. I struggle enough doing these. So I changed it to have them on there. For some reason, I did this one at the same time as my bow jumper, and my bow one has the buttons on this side and this one has it on that side. And I follow the same pattern. So I don't know how that happened, but hey ho. I'm going to say that's everything because I've talked about it so much previously. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments or send me a message on Instagram or on Ravelry. Okay, another wardrobe change. This one you may recognise. We are now onto the Fix It February section. Unintentional Fix It February. Although I'm not 100% sure if this counts because it's kind of a failed Fix It February. I feel like I have started this sentence several times in the last 2 years. I tried to make my husband a jumper and I failed and it turned into a wonderful skirt. Then I tried to make him another jumper and he was very polite, telling me the whole time, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then I finally gave it to him and he wore it and he wasn't impressed and he kept pulling and pulling and pulling. And I said, what is wrong? And he said, it doesn't fit. I tried to pretend it fit, but it doesn't fit. So he didn't wear it and I was wearing it. And then I tried to fix it and it just still didn't work. So this is now my jumper. This is the Yggrasil by Anna Husfard. One day I'll say that correctly. Anna Husfard. And I love this. This cable is so pretty. And this colour is amazing. Lingonberry jam. Yeah, well, thanks Ul, for those wondering. I made myself one and it did not. It's kind of a cursed jumper now I think about it. I made myself one and it came out so small and so tight and so dense. I have since learned that I should have gone up a needle size in order for that to have fit, but I didn't realise at the time it would be as itchy and intense. So I actually had plans to make myself another one in this colour, so kind of bonus, I don't have to anymore because this is now mine. But basically I've now learnt that my husband does not fit into raglan jumpers. His shape is just not raglan friendly. I'm going to try to make him a vintage jumper because that one you can individually, like you can shape that to the exact size and measurements of the person in individual panels. This feels like the road to success. I feel like this might work because I need to give him a significant amount of more fabric on his back than I was actually aware of. So for this one, it does have short rows. It's just, it didn't seem to have enough short rows. Then I was stressing about how I could add them because this is a top down raglan and I couldn't just rip out the neckband and start again. So what I did was I cut out this neckband, which took an extraordinarily long time. I was trying to gather, usually I would get a needle or needle and thread and I would weave in the yarn through every knit stitch in order to get it, and then I could, and the one above the one I wanted to cut. Does that make sense? I put yarn through here, and there's a knit stitch row, and I would cut there and unravel. But of course, this was ribbing, and I had no idea how to essentially add a life row. What is it? A life row? Lifesaver? What is it called? When you put thread through a whole row of your knitting. I'm going to just say lifesaver. And usually I would do that, but of course this was in ribbing and I had no idea how to pick up the purl stitch. So then I tried to do one on the one side, picking up the knit on the inside and picking up the knit on the outside. But that just got chaotic because I needed 4 needles because I had to do the one on the bottom and then the one above the row I wanted. And I couldn't do it on the plain side because the cables started immediately after the ribbing. I did not want to have all of them start coming undone. That would have been a nightmare. So it took me like 3 hours just to collect the stitches, cut the yarn and unravel each individual stitch and get it onto a needle. So that was about the 3 hours, and then the next day I had to try and figure out the short rows. So I added short rows. Into the ribbing, which was actually a lot easier than I expected. And I started from the bottom and went up, and so I started longer, and then went smaller, and then at the final round I went round and collected them all and did it all. I tried to do Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off because people talk about that all the time and say it's great for neckbands. It was awful. It looked so horrible. I then tried to do it in a way that I can't even remember how to do this bind off because I like banned it from my memory so I wouldn't have to ever think about it again. Oh, my hair's doing strange things. Basically, I saw a tip somewhere. I think it was a Very Pinks knit tutorial, I think. And somebody underneath said to stop the flaring, just do a normal bind off every like 3 or 4 bind off stitches. So I tried that. That was horrible. I had just these loops and it was just so flared out and horrible. So I just did my normal bind off in rib. And I think it sits a lot nicer. I will block this again just to get everything evened out. And also I was kind of hoping it would soften this fabric. It's very stiff still. And, oh, my bread is ready to come out the oven. Hang on. What was I saying? Yes, it's still like, you can see the lines in between some of the stitches. It hasn't evened out as much in the blocking as usual. So I'd like to give it another bath and soften it up a bit. And I'm trying to think of ways to wear it now because obviously this is a lot longer than I would have a jumper. It is nice in the winter to have a nice toasty warm bum, but I think if I was to go out in it, I'd probably put a belt and then do the whole like folding over the belt thing, but I haven't really figured that out yet. I don't think my belts are right, but that's probably something I would do. There's probably some special belts, special way that the ribbing doesn't poke out the bottom. But yeah, anyway, that is for me to worry about later. So it kind of annoyed me that I spent like 6-7 hours to fix this and it still didn't fit him because it still rides up on his neck. Like, I mean, it is on me to be honest. And I didn't need to do any of that because I don't need all these extra short rows in the back because it fit me perfectly fine before. But hey ho, at least I know I tried, and at least I know that I tried and it didn't work. So that is not what needed to be done. I don't know, I don't know if it was too big. He basically wanted a jumper that's quite fitted, and it did fit, but when I made it bigger, he didn't like it. So I made it the size it was, which I don't know anymore. I think it was size 4, and he wanted smaller arms. So I made smaller arms and he tried them on and he was like, yep, that's absolutely exactly what I want. I don't want it bigger because I already had to rip out the sleeves before. And now when he puts it on, the sleeves are far too tight and he doesn't like it and he doesn't like the top. So basically it was a total fail for him. But for me, I now have an Yggdrasil in a nice colour and the sleeves are not too tight for me, and my one is so tight and so itchy that I can actually now wear an Yggdrasil and it fits me. I mean, it is big, like there is obviously a lot more space here and I don't need so many short rows and it's too long and it's very long, but it's like adjustable. I can cope with that. It's fine. And I have so many jumpers, it really doesn't matter that I have one that is an oversized jumper. Goodness me, I own an oversized jumper now. Everything else is form-fitting and very tight. So, it's very tight. It's not like super tight, but they are tight jumpers. You can't really wear anything underneath these, except like a singlet. So yeah, I will take this off now because it's very toasty and warm because it is Swedish wool and it's like, what is it, worsted weight. So I will be back. Now after I did that, I had this sudden memory. I have a project, abandoned project, that I was in the middle of trying to fix last year, and then I just stopped, just halfway through unraveling, I just stopped. Way back when I was teaching myself how to purl with my left hand, because I swapped from English to continental, I was still doing English purling and it was getting stressful when I wanted to do ribbing because I couldn't, swapping between the two was frustrating. So I was trying out these different purl techniques for the left hand and I was doing Norwegian purl, and I thought a great way to practice this would just be to do a small pair of shorties. And I did this, and it turns out that my Norwegian purl is super, super, super loose, and so I made socks with ribbing that was so floppy. There was no ribbing quality to that, it just flopped. So I used to fold it over, and I think I knitted the rest of the sock. Yeah, I did do the rest of the sock left in continental. It was just the purling that went wrong. So I never wore these, but I made these cute socks. Now, which one is the one I fixed? I think I fixed this one. So it is actually, hilariously, it's a lot tighter than the original. So I made these just to practice, basically, from going from English knitting to continental. And they are Regia Tutti Frutti, and this is the apple colourway. And I did wear them, but it just got really annoying, and they were like different heights, and it was silly. So I decided I would fix the ribbing by basically doing the same thing. And I went in and picked up all the stitches around here, cut it, and then unraveled it all. And I just stopped halfway through unraveling it and just abandoned it in a basket under here for 12 months. So after finishing this, I thought, I'm on a roll, I'm gonna fix this. Then I can have my socks back, because these are great for spring and summer because they're not wool, they're cotton, and they're stretchy because they have this elastane in them or something. They're great. So now I have my socks back and I'm so happy. So there's two projects that I fixed, even though that one didn't get fixed properly, but I thought I'd show them because I'm so happy that I fixed them. So it does work. If you have screwed up something at the top of a sock that was knitted from top down, you can still fix it. You can just do some surgery and all will be well. And I have to tell myself this because I have to do the same thing on this hat. I am unsure, to be honest, if I should try it or not. This is a hat that I can't pronounce, so ta-da, here is the name. This took me so long to knit because it was a complete brain fuddle. My brain struggled so much knitting these cables. I've knitted many cables, but my goodness, this one hurt my brain. So I don't really want to give it away, but I have an enormous head, and this is tiny. So I'm thinking I need to do the same thing, which is pick up the stitches, rip it out and make the ribbing bigger. It's just the same thing. I don't have a knit row to pick up. it goes straight to cables, and if those cables come out, I will cry because I do not know how to fix them. So I have to try and figure out how to pick up the rib stitches. Like, do any of you... Safety line? Is that it? Not a rescue line, a safety line? How do you pick up the pearl in order to get them all back onto your needle so that you can rip out this cast on edge and go back? Because I'd have to cut it here and rip it out that direction because it does not work that way. Then I would have this hat, because at the moment it just climbs up off of my head. I'm going to completely ruin. Ugh, like, I can just about get it on my head. And then slowly it comes off my ears, and then it climbs and climbs until it's just precariously balancing the back of my head, and it just looks so stupid. And so I want to fix it. I just haven't figured out how to pick up these pearls in the right way. Do I have anything else to show you? I've done absolutely nothing on my stripy tee because I have been working hardcore on those 2 jumpers. Finishing 2 jumpers is an achievement in itself, so I don't really need to be worried about not having worked on any whips, but the jumper is still on the needles. It's right there waiting for me. My mitten is still abandoned, and my my cardigan is still abandoned. So I might continue on the ribbing of that. But I'm having a sock urge. It's been a while. When I was knitting on those, just the cuff of those socks, I thought, it's been a while since I made socks. And I have some intense sock urges. I really want to make some of the stone knit socks patterns because I used to make them, and I have a few, but I'm really behind. I have her book, and I have several patterns that I purchased, and I also have patterns that a couple of you have gifted me, and I really want to make those as well. And yet I never knit them. I just knit jumpers. So I'm trying to get enthusiastic to cast on my socks in 2 of them at the same time. Not on the same cable, because colour work 2 at a time on a cable I think would just blow my mind. But I'm thinking if I could try and knit them simultaneously, like do the rib on one, do the rib on the other, I might not have the second sock syndrome, and then I might enjoy my socks more. I'm also thinking I want to try knitting toe-up socks, because I've never done it, and it could be a nice change. So that might keep me from second sock syndrome, or maybe I'll cast on one of them and another one, and that would keep me entertained. So I'll do one with the avocados, and then one with the eggs, or one with the chickens and one with the tulips. Or there's so many socks that I want to knit. So that is on the cards. I really wanted to knit colourwork socks for my family, like my brother and my mum and my husband, but getting colourwork socks to fit me is hard enough. Getting them to fit someone else that I can't constantly try it on their foot, that would be difficult. Because my floats used to be really good when I knitted on those small circumference needles, but I can't do that anymore because I don't knit with my right hand. So I have to do magic loop, and then I get gauge tension issues. They're not awful. I think they're quite normal issue. Like, knitting goes in a spiral, so you do get a slight jog, and I want to enjoy knitting. I don't want to have to get too involved and have to do too many finicky things, otherwise I'm just not going to do it. So I don't mind having this slight jog, it's just sometimes I seem to have worse tension than other times. Like my festive bunny jumper that I made at Christmas, that's essentially like a long sock. And the sleeve I mean, not the jumper. And I had this horrendous gauge issue that basically put a huge like bump that goes all the way up because I was pulling way too tightly on the yarn. But I've made other jumpers and I've got a ladder because it's so loose. So I have to be very careful when I am magic looping what my mood is doing. A friend sent me a link on some techniques on how to adjust it, so I'm going to try that. So thank you. I'm going to try this technique where you pull out the needle 4 stitches before you change on the magic loop. I don't know how to explain that. I'll try and link the video below actually if I can remember. I haven't tried it yet and I don't know if that will be too finicky, but if it does help with the gauge and help with the sock being able to go over heel, then it will probably be worth it. And I'll give that a go. Then I might be more open to knitting socks for other people because my husband loves sharks and I'd love to make some socks with sharks on. And I have these adorable chicken sock patterns in my library and I also want to make those. And I have just been spotted by my neighbour talking to myself on the camera. That's not awkward at all. I'm just gonna shuffle over to the side a bit. Yeah, basically I want to get better at my colourwork sock tension because although it's not terrible, it could be better and then I could knit for more people. That would be fun. I am going to move my camera so that my neighbour stops looking at me. Okay, I will wrap it up there because they have got the electric drill out now and it's going to get really loud and also he keeps staring at me, so that's not fun. So don't forget about the knit along or make along on Instagram and potentially Ravelry if I can figure it out. If you want to send me any messages, ask me any questions, then pop them down below or send me a message on Instagram or Ravelry, which is emilykatemadethis. I also did do a bit more of a post on Coffee, a blog post with some links on some patterns, some websites that you can get some vintage patterns from. There are some free ones and some, just go look at that. And I think that's it. So thank you very much for watching and I will see you when I have turned another year older because it's my birthday next week and I will see you then. Bye!